जय गोपी जनवल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपी यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुनातीरावनचारि यमुनातीरावनचारि जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं, देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया, भगवतेरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 11. Jadbharat instructs King Rahugana, text number 8. Gunanuraktam vyasanaya janto, kshemaya nairgunyamato manasyat, yata pradipo gritavartimashnan, shika sadhuma bhajati yanadyasvam, padam tata gunakarmanubandham, vrittir manashrayate nyatra tattvam. Gunanuraktam vyasanaya janto, kshemaya naigunyamato manasyat, yata pradipo gritavartimashnan, shika sadhuma bhajati hyayadhasvam, yanyadasvam. Padam tata gunakarmanubandham, vrittir manashrayate nyatra tattvam. Gunanuraktam vyasanaya janto, kshemaya naigunyamato manasya, yata pradipo gritavartimashnan, shika sadhuma bhajati yanyadhasvam. Padam tata gunakarmanubandham, vrittir manashrayate nyatra tattvam.
Gunanuraktam vyasanaya janto,
Gunanuraktam vyasanaya janto,
क्षेमाय नैगुण्यम् अर्थो मनहस्य यथा प्रदीपो घृतवर्तिमश्नन् शिखा सरुग्ना भजति यन्यदा स्वम् पदं तथा गुणकर्मानुबद्धं वृत्तिर्मनः श्रूयते न्यत्र तत्त्वम्
गुणानुतत्त्वं व्यसनाय जन्तो क्षेमाय नैपुण्यमतो मनस्य यदा प्रदीपो
शिखा सदुमा भजति अन्यदा स्वम् पदं तथा गुणकर्मानुबद्धं वृत्तिर्मनाश्रयते न्यत्र तत्त्वम्
What meaning? Guna anuraktam, being attached to the material modes of nature. Vyasanaya, for the conditioning in material existence. Jantoho, of the living entity. Shemaya, for the ultimate welfare. Nairgunyam, being unaffected by the material modes of nature. Ato, thus, manaha, the mind. Syat, becomes. Yatha, as much as. Pradipaha, a lamp. Gritavartim, a wick within clarified butter. Ashnan, burning. Shikaha, the flame. Sadumaha, with smoke. Bhajati, enjoys. He, certainly. Anyada, otherwise. Swam, its own original. Padam, position. Tata, so. Gunakarma anubaddham, bound by the modes of nature and the reactions of material activities. Vrittihi, various engagements. Manaha, the mind. Shrayate, take shelter of. Anyatra, otherwise. Tattvam, its original condition. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation: when the living entity's mind becomes absorbed in the sense gratification of the material world, it brings about his conditioned life and suffering within the material situation. However, when the mind becomes unattached to the material enjoyment, it becomes the cause of liberation. When the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened. When the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering. And when detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. Purport: it is therefore concluded that the mind is the cause of material existence and liberation also. Everyone is suffering in this material world because of the mind. It is therefore proper to train the mind or to cleanse the mind from material attachment and engage it fully in the Lord's service. This is called spiritual engagement. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mamchayo Vyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatitaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. We should engage the mind fully in Krishna conscious activities. Then it will be the cause of our liberation, for our returning home back to Godhead. However, if we keep the mind engaged in material activities for sense gratification, it will cause continuous bondage and will make us remain in this material world in different bodies, suffering the consequences of our different actions. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padhan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratushe Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dheena Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Mancha Kalpataro Bhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramananda Madhava Shri Chaitanya Vishwaram. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So we'll read the translation once again. When the living entity's mind becomes absorbed in the sense gratification of the material world, it brings about his conditioned life and suffering within the material situation. However, when the mind becomes unattached to the material enjoyment, it becomes the cause of liberation. When the flame in a lamp burns the wick improperly, the lamp is blackened. But when the lamp is filled with ghee and is burning properly, there is bright illumination. Similarly, when the mind is absorbed in material sense gratification, it causes suffering. And when detached from material sense gratification, it brings about the original brightness of Krishna consciousness. So, we are seeing the chapter Jadabharat instructing Maharaj Rahugana about the mind, how mind is tricking and how the mind makes a living entity stay in this material world for millions of lifetimes, in fact eternity. So mind is a very deep topic, so which I don't have any realization about. So whatever I heard lecture about this particular verse and read here and there, so I would like to present here. So if at all in the course of presentation, if anyone gets offended because of my words or attitude, please forgive me. And philosophical, I'm very weak. I'm trying to my best to get stronger. So if there are any misunderstandings or regarding the philosophy, any wrong, please feel free to please correct me. Yes, here Jadabharat is giving Bhagavad Gita class to Maharaj Rahugana. So why Bhagavad Gita class? Because Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of the spiritual life. If one is not sufficiently having the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and simultaneously trying to understand other Vedic scriptures, even the other literatures may be very nice, relishing, but it will not help to create a strong foundation on the Vedic knowledge. And anything built on a weak foundation, however beautiful it may be, however nice it may be, so it will not last for a longer time. So it's very important to read Bhagavad Gita. Even in the life of Srila Prabhupada, when we see, so when Srila Prabhupada finished his Bhagavad Gita translation, so taking the commentary of Baladev Vidyabhushan, so after that the disciples were asked Prabhupada, so Prabhupada, what's next? Then Prabhupada told, I'll write Bhagavad Gita once again. Now by taking the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the application of the principles of Bhagavad Gita. So if you see the Prabhupada's, so in his, all the purports, he quotes Srimad Bhagavatam in Bhagavad Gita, and he quotes Bhagavad Gita in Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this particular purport also, if you see, he's quoting the 14th chapter, 20 verse, 6th verse. Mam cha yo vyabhisharena bhakti yogena sevati sagunan samititaitan brahma bhujaya kalpate. So Bhagavad Gita is a book of principles, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the application of those principles. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is fullness of the joyful execution of devotional service, where all these principles exist. So studying Bhagavad Gita is very, very important. So for all the Bhagavad Gita students, we'll have a small quiz over here. So in this purport and the translation, so there is a description about the lamp. So any verses in Bhagavad Gita which you remember that describes about the lamp? Yata Deepo? Yes, verse number 19, chapter 6, correct, yes. Yata Deepo Nivatasto Nengate Sopama Skrita Yogino Yata Chittasya Yunjato Yogam Atmanaha. Yes. So where Krishna is telling this, for just like a lamp which is there in a non-disturbed air, so it is not disturbed and there is no air, it just lamps, it brightens. So similarly, even an uncontrolled mind, so it is a strong thing that supports a person to go on in spiritual life. Yes. Any other verse which you remember that describes about the lamp? Clue. Famous verse it is. Chaitushloki Bhagavad Gita. Jnana Bhashvata. So Krishna tells you who is those unalloyed devotees of mine. For them, from within the heart, I remove the darkness, giving the lamp of knowledge, brightness of knowledge. So in this verse we see, so if the lamp is not burnt properly, so it removes the stains, black, stinky on that. So similarly, if our consciousness is not proper, that is, if it is not Krishna consciousness, it remains the stains of material sense gratification of the mind. But Krishna has given the same mind to us to transcend the material world. So in the translation given, right? So the mind is the cause of material sense gratification, that material bondage, and the same mind is the cause of our liberation from the material world. So Krishna has given us the asset of this mind, and it is up to us how to utilize the mind. Either it is as an asset, or as it will become as a severe liability. So this liability is the mind puts us in this material world for perpetually, for lifetime after lifetime. So the cultured mind or the trained mind helps the living entity to come out of this cycle of birth and death. The first step in spiritual life is culturing of the mind. Culturing or training, both are same. So there are different ways of culturing the mind. So one of the way is by neutrality. So neutrality means people who practice this neutrality, so they struggle hard not to get attached to any sense enjoyment in this material world. Trying to cut off their desires means having zero desires. I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want to enjoy this. So this is one of the aspect or one of the way to culture the mind. So they want to be desireless, but they cannot accept the fact that desireless means it is not that we shouldn't have any material desires, but it also means having full of spiritual desires. So actual desireless means, Prabhupada quotes in number of purports, actual desireless means having full of spiritual desires, but there is no tinge of material desires. So this word is called actual neutrality. And other way of culturing or training the mind is through the Vedic knowledge. So this Vedic knowledge cultures the mind into theoretical understanding of the things. But this will not help the mind to take it practically. but the mind just on the basis of theory. On the theory, the mind cannot culture itself. On the Vedic knowledge is one of the aspect, but this gives the theoretical understanding. But just on the basis of theory, mind cannot be cultured or trained. So by reading the Vedic scriptures, one may get maybe conclusion like I am also part of this cosmic universe and everything is one. This may be similar conclusions by reading the Vedic knowledge. But it is also one of the training of the mind or culturing of the mind. But the best way to culture the mind is to give the opportunities to think of Krishna. So Krishna means Krishna personal form, his holy name, his pastimes, his abode, his glories, and one more important thing is expanding his movement of Krishna consciousness. So this is the best way to culture the mind, thinking about Krishna. So in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse number 16, so Krishna says about the austerity of the mind in the sphere of Krishna consciousness. So in this 17th chapter, or exactly speaking 16th verse, so Krishna gives a proper road map how to train the mind in the sphere of Krishna consciousness. So we will see that. So he states in the sloka, Manasa prasada saumyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samshuddhir iti etat tapo manasam uchyate. So translation goes like this: satisfaction, simplicity, gravity, self-control and purification of one's existence are the austerities of the mind. So just like there is a ghee and the lamp, if there is no proper ghee, it leaves the stains in the lamp. And these stains are nothing but the desire for material sense enjoyment. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells how even if one of the sins is not controlled, the mind drags a living entity to sense gratification through that sense. And we know that how we have 5 senses, and for different living entities, these 5 senses, maybe one of the senses is very strong, and that is enough to drag that particular living entity to sense gratification. So we have seen in detail in one of the session also. Would like to rewind that. So for example, so we have take the sense of a tongue, taste. So fish, we can take the example of this. So fish, we see, so fish wants to taste the worm or the bait which a fisherman puts, and it's in the water, it sees the worms in it. So here the fish is completely one-pointed focus, vyavasayatmika buddhi. It sees only the worm bait and nothing else. It's just like a perverted concentration of Arjuna. When Dronacharya asked Arjuna so to feed the eye of the bird, so Dronacharya was asking Arjuna, what can you see here? Or are you able to see the tree, the whole tree? Tree? No, I am not able to see the tree. Are you able to see the branches? No, I am not able to see the branches. Are you seeing the eye of the bird? Yes, I am seeing only the eye of the bird. So similarly, fish also here. So we ask the fish, are you able to see the line which is coming from the top of the water? No. Are you seeing the hook? No, I am not able to see the hook also. Are you seeing the worm or the bait? Yes, I can see only the bait. So in this way, the fish is completely fully focused just to have that worm, taste the worm. So because of this, it goes without seeing other thing, just catches the worm. And because of that, what happens? Its pellet stuck with the hook, and finally it loses its life. So in this way, the tongue is very, very voracious. So just by this one tongue, so fish gets the end of his life, it dies. So coming to the vision, other sense, that is eyes. So an example is given above a firefly or a moth. So moth likes to see all the dazzling entities, so like fire. Fire is very bright, and this moth wants to see this again, but it forgets, he don't know that he'll be burnt personally. So without understanding this knowledge, the moth enters the fire and finishes its life. Just wanted to see something beautiful, something good. Next, coming to the ears, want to hear something very nice. So the example was given about the deer. So deer is very very fast in moving. So the hunter cannot stop it. So what does the hunter do? He plays a nice flute music so that the deer will stay there and hear. And when the deer stays at particular point of time stagnant, then it is the right opportunity for the hunter to hunt the deer. So similar in this way, the deer with just one sense of ear, it gets stuck, bound in the hands of the hunter. Next, coming to the smell. So there are certain bees, so which want to smell honey. So they go to various flowers and catch the honey. There are certain flowers, so they are open. So whenever some entity or some bee comes to smell the honey, they close it up. And these honey bees are choked and lose their life. But what to do? They want to smell the honey. They know this, but still. And coming to the touch. So we have the example of elephant. So this elephant, so these genitals are very strong. She wants to enjoy the sex with the female elephant. And we know very well how the female is being captured in the forest. So it's very difficult to capture the elephant. So what do the forest people do? What do the people who want to hunt the elephant? So they will move the female elephant in front of the male elephant. And it gets agitated by the female elephant and moves here and there. And the female elephant is very trained how to capture the male elephant. And go somehow, this male elephant is stuck in the ditch. And it was not given food for many days. And when these people, they come and give some food. And elephant thinks, oh, these are my saviors. I have to serve them. So in this way, by the sense of touch, the elephant gets captured. So you have 5 senses. So we have seen the example of 5 different animals which get captured through these different senses. But for a human being, it's very nice. All the senses are very strong. All the senses, very strong. And the mind says this, live life king size. There was one cigarette advertisement many years before. So that particular Bollywood hero says this, live life king size, having this cigarette. And we have only one life, just enjoy. And when we enjoy that particular sense gratification, that leaves the stain in our consciousness. And it's very sticky. It's very difficult to remove. So what is the best way to remove the stain? To cleanse it. And what is that cleansing process? Chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And what is that? Cheto Darpana Marjana. And what helps the cleansing of the mind? Or what helps the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra? This is the culturing of the mind or training of the mind. So if there is no culturing of the mind or training of the mind, the mind goes against us. So when we start chanting, it goes against. Like for some time we may start chanting for a few days or some time. So mind does not like this. And when there is no training of the mind immediately rebacks. When there is no proper steady Krishna conscious activity, especially we see in the neophytes, in the newcomers, that they chant for some time, again they engage in the sinful activities, and again come back and engage. So sometimes we think also, we go 2 steps forward. Yo, today's chanting is very nice. I'm able to hear the mantra very nice. I'm enjoying it. Maybe after chanting, we go 10 steps behind, engaging sinful activity. And the next day again, 4 steps I have come forward. Today's chanting is also very nice. I'm able to do consciously, but there are 6 steps behind. So the net is very less. The net result is quite behind. So in this way, when we engage in sinful activities simultaneously by practicing bhakti, that is chanting, cleansing the process. But since we have the past samskaras, if we are not stopping that sense gratification, still we are continuing with the sense gratification and trying to advance in spiritual life. It's very difficult, it's not. So this is what Prabhupada says, right? Sense gratification and Krishna consciousness go ill together. So when that is going on, so a devotee cannot see progress also in spiritual life. He's practicing, but literally there is no progress. And because of this, because of lack of culturing of the mind, many devotees say, oh, it is not for me. They get depressed. I'm not seeing any progress in my spiritual life. I'm practicing for many days, years. I'm not able to see any this thing. And some may leave the Krishna consciousness also because of this thing. So because this Krishna consciousness is for everyone. But the thing is, if one is not able to do the way it has to be done, so that is where the problem is. So how to culture this mind? So Krishna says, the first way of culturing the mind is mana prasadaha, satisfaction of the mind. So I'll read the full purport once. This comes in chapter 17, verse number 16 of Bhagavad Gita. So purport goes like this: to make the mind austere is to detach it from sense gratification. It should be so trained that it can be always thinking of good, doing good to others. So how to get detached from sense gratification? So sense gratification means what? We are always thinking about ourselves. So we are centered. So how to counteract this? When we start thinking about doing good to others. So this is one of the technique which Prabhupada gives in the purport. To get detached from sense gratification is to be always thinking of doing good to others. The best training for the mind is gravity of thought. One should not deviate from Krishna consciousness and must always avoid sense gratification. So what is this gravity of thought? So gravity of thought means think before we speak. So you always observe this, right? And also here. So mind is very fast, but there is one more sense which is even faster than the mind, that is tongue. So people say this, right? So even if we give away the actions, we may get back, but if the words once we speak, so cannot be retracted back again. So tongue is even faster than the mind. So what is this gravity of thought? So one of the aspect of the gravity of thought is thinking before we speak what. So if we at all we speak something bad without thinking, we always observe this in our day-to-day life also. Oh, I should have not spoken this. So that is not the proper thing. So this is what. And the other thing is trying to help others. And a deeper degree of gravity of thought is to think how to expand this moment of Krishna consciousness. How to expand this moment of Krishna consciousness. It's a very deeper aspect of gravity in thought. So how we can expand Krishna consciousness nicely? So by ourselves practicing very nicely. So if we ourselves are not practicing nicely and going out and preaching, it will not have a much effect. So for example, so we devotees having some fight within us, some or the other difference of opinion, vagera, it will happen for sure. And we going out and telling this moment is Krishna consciousness moment, and it is for the peace of the whole universe, of the whole world. And we inside us not practicing this peace, always being fighting with each other. So means it's just like a duplicity. So we personally practicing and going out and preaching this moment of Krishna consciousness. So this will help a lot. So this is called gravity of thought. Next, satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from the thoughts of sense enjoyment. So whenever we engage in sense gratification, we will be all the time dissatisfied. It is the experience of every living entity. We want some enjoyment, and after that we'll be dissatisfied. So that dissatisfying agent is the lust which makes us dissatisfied. So this comes from Bhagavad Gita chapter 3 verse number 39. So where Krishna is telling this: thus the living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So this lust burns like fire. And what makes the lust continue be burned? That is greed. So this lust and greed will not allow the living entity to be satisfied, whoever engages in this sense gratification. So this is the satisfaction of the mind. getting out the mind from the thoughts of sense gratification. And to purify one's nature is to become Krishna conscious. As we discussed, satisfaction of the mind can be obtained only by taking the mind away from the thoughts of sense enjoyment. The more we think of sense enjoyment, the more the mind becomes dissatisfied. In the present age, we unnecessarily engage the mind in so many different ways for sense gratification. And so, there is no possibility of minds becoming satisfied. So, what to do then? The best course is to divert the mind to the Vedic literature, which is full of satisfying stories, as in the Puranas and as in the Mahabharata. Sometimes if we may feel also like this, Prabhuji, I am reading this Vedic literature, but I am not being satisfied. Why? Still we continue, so that we train the mind to get satisfied by reading the Vedic literature. So one can take advantage of this knowledge and thus become purified. The mind should be devoid of duplicity. So what is duplicity? Keeping something in the heart and speaking out something else. So we can go on describing about this duplicity, as we had a nice discussion in Brahmachari class. So various ways of duplicity. So we are always thinking about how to come out of this duplicity. Being simple, straightforward. Being straightforward means not being arrogant, obnoxious. No, it's feeling, I'm just not thinking about how the person feels. Just speaking the way I want. So that is also does not mean straightforward. Straightforward means simple and honest in a sphere of Krishna consciousness. If something mistake is done, so if I am not able to deal with some devotee properly, some misunderstanding is there. So in Krishna consciousness, we will deal with them. So how, Prabhuji, this is what the situation is. So let's try to work on this. Either talking to them directly or talking to their superiors. This is what the difficulty I am facing. In a Krishna conscious mirror. So this here, so duplicity means, straightforwardness means being honest. And one should think of the welfare of all. So how we can think of welfare of all in Krishna conscious way? As already described or discussed, when we progress in Krishna consciousness to a very great maturity, and whenever someone else engage or come in contact with us, they will be benefited. So how we can think of welfare of all? So what is the population of this world right now? Anyone know the statistics?
800 billion.
800 billion. 800 billion or 8 billion? 8 billion. 800 crore. Sorry. So here Prabhupada is welfare of all. All means 8 billion include. So can we know people in Karnataka? Can we all? Can you know people, all the people in ACS layout? No, we don't know. The Prabhupada is telling all. So here all means we ourselves. So when we engage in Krishna consciousness nicely, when we progress very nicely, and when people around us come in contact with us, they get benefited. And we can see the example of Srila Prabhupada himself. So Srila Prabhupada, whom he knows, don't know anyone in the West. He went there, and by people coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada, he could able to change the whole world. So Prabhupada is a nice example for this. How we becoming Krishna conscious very nicely, people coming in contact with us, they get benefited. So this is how we think of welfare of all. And silence means that one is always thinking about of self-realization. Basically speaking of contemplation, self-introspection. So now I am in this position right now in my progress of Krishna consciousness. So what is my next step? Where should I go? So how my quality of chanting is, how my quality of service is. I am able to hear the mantra nicely, each and every mantra. If not, how many times I am able to hear the mantra? So what is my next step? If I am able to hear this many times, how can I increase my quality? How can I increase the hearing of Maha mantra? Now I am able to hear one mantra, how can I hear two mantras next time? So what are the possibilities? How to go about this? How to do more and more? By like reading Harinam Chintamani, hearing the glories of the holy names of the Lord more and more, so that we can increase our faith on the holy name and chant nicely, and following all the 10 offenses, not just reciting, and how to avoid each and every offense day by day, contemplating on this. And next, whatever service am I doing, is it in a proper consciousness? Am I doing for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga, or just I am doing it for my own pleasure. My own pleasure means what? For if I am doing this service, it's very nice. By doing this service, other devotees are looking at me, so they'll glorify me. Oh, Prabhuji, you're doing this service very nicely. So if I am doing for my own pleasure, aspiring for some glorification from others, if I am doing this way, so how can I change it? How can I do for the service, for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga? So in this way, we can start thinking. This is called self-introspection. So this is what means silence for a devotee. Not just the Mauna Vrat, not speaking in it. That is not silence. Silence means self-introspection, thinking about one's own self-realization. The person in Krishna consciousness observes perfect silence in this sense. Control of the mind means detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. One should be straightforward in his dealings and thereby purify his existence. All these qualities together constitute austerity in mental activities. This is what the austerity described by Krishna in that 17th chapter, verse number 16. And what is the satisfaction means? It also includes, so we'll be satisfied whatever we get by the Lord's mercy. So not hankering or not having that greed, I want this, I don't want this, etc. So just be satisfied, so whatever we get. So in this way we'll be satisfied, need not hanker more and more. When we hanker, as you're telling, this greed or lust is never satisfied. And because of this not satisfied, mind is not satisfied. It's always being agitated. And mind is not controlled, obviously will not be controlled. So when we are not controlled, we are not at peace. So we cannot concentrate more on bhakti. So gravity of the thought also includes detaching the mind from sense enjoyment. No deviation from Krishna consciousness. So devoid of duplicity, that is self-control. Simultaneous thinking of the welfare of others. So thinking of welfare of others means simplicity. So it will be straightforward, not duplicit. Thinking how to advance one's own. So these are the things from Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna has given. So I have written a few points from a nectar of instruction also. So where Rupa Goswami is telling the austerity of the mind, Mana Vega. So how to control the mind. So one of the aspects is meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is why Prabhupada has given this morning program. So included one aspect is through Darshanarti. So when we sing of Govinda Madhipurusham, so we'll meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. So from the lotus feet, then to the thighs, then to the navel, then to the chest, and then to the face. So when we concentrate on the form of the Lord, so mind comes to control. This is one of the ways. And Prabhupada Rupa Goswami focusing on the lotus feet of the Lord. And this lotus feet also says, two lotus feet are also compared to the first two cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we read Bhagavatam also, our mind comes to control. And next thing is thinking about Krishna. So Krishna means all his pastimes, hearing about Krishna, glories of the holy name, glories of Krishna's pastimes, all the various things. So thinking about them, meditating on them. So whatever you have discussed in the class, whatever you are meditating, how to implement in my day-to-day life. And the other way is thinking about how to serve Krishna best. As full-time devotees, we are serving Krishna very nicely, that is for sure. But how to serve best? So what is this best? Improving our quality more and more. So today I could offer the bhoga to the Lord, having nicely doing all the archam and everything. So now how to increase the quality? Increasing my consciousness. Now I'm offering this bhoga to the Lord, cooked by the wonderful devotees. Oh Krishna, this cooked by wonderful devotees cooks. So you please honor this. When you honor this prasad, when you have this bhoga, you satisfied. When devotees have this prasadam, so they will be satisfied. And I am able to take part in the service of satisfying the devotees. So in this way, increasing our quality of service. How to do service, how to serve Krishna the best. So my spiritual master says, so increasing our quality of service also includes Raganuga Bhakti, day by day. So suppose I am cleaning this temple hall. So this temple I can clean fast, in few minutes, which is not proper. The other way, it may take little longer time, but still nicely I am removing all the stuffs from the floor, cleaning very, very nicely. So this is also thinking how to serve Krishna the best. So these are the various ways how we can control or culture the mind. So when we culture the mind, so this will help to cleanse the mind, increasing the quality of our chanting, so that our heart gets cleansed. So in this way we can increase our taste for Krishna consciousness on a daily basis. And on a daily basis means increasing our taste more and more. So where we'll not come to the point that we'll not engage in any sinful activity or in even committing any offense to the devotees or to the Lord. So that is the point where there is no fall down, we progress more and more. So this is what the purport says here. Mam chayo vyabhichayarena bhakti yogena sevate saguna samati chaitan brahma bhuyaya darbate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So to come to this level, you have to control the mind. How to control the mind? We have to train the mind or culture the mind. So this is what the discussion about today. So with this I would like to conclude today's discussion. If there are any questions, any comments, would like to? Any questions? Any comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, very nice class where you told the various ways how to control the mind, how to control or train the mind basically. And initially you mentioned people try different kinds of techniques, like some try this neutrality, or the Gyanis try this becoming desireless, but that is not a correct way, or they are not able to control the mind. And some try getting the Vedic knowledge, just the theoretical knowledge, reading it and trying to understand, analyzing it, but that also is not the perfect way to control the mind. And best ways to control the mind is think of the Krishna, engage in devotional service of the Lord. And as you mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita shloka, the austerities of the mind, how instead of thinking of sense gratification, instead of engaging in all these things based on lust and greed for gratifying our senses, we can always think of serving others. And that way we can be satisfied, because satisfying our senses, we will never, means we can try satisfying senses, but we won't get satisfied. And second, you mentioned is gravity, that we should think before speaking, and also always think how to expand Krishna consciousness nicely. And then always not being duplicit, trying to be simple and honest. Of course, that doesn't also mean that trying to be offending others or being straightforward doesn't mean speaking in a wrong way to others, but being very simple and honest, and always thinking about the welfare of everyone. And the best way to think, and this is a very nice point I like, that best welfare we can do is when we progress nicely, then automatically who come in touch with us, they will also get benefited. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, bro. Very nice class. Like how you explain, like how to culture the mind, train the mind. What is the satisfaction of mind? So, culturing, you talk about like neutrality, Vedic knowledge, and thinking of like serving, thinking of Krishna, Nam, Gun, Roop, Leela, form, and expanding Krishna consciousness. In neutrality, you said like they make it zero desire or a cut off desire, desireless. But Prabhupada said actual neutrality is like no material desire, fully spiritual desire. That is actual neutrality. And you talk about the silence also, like silence lemon, from mon is not like keeping quiet, like mon is proper silence is thinking of self introspection, self realization, and all. So, and this thing like two lotus feet of Krishna is compared to the first canto of Bhagavatam. So yeah, these are the few points I like. First two cantos. Ah. Oh, okay. Ah.
So like this, it's told that from lotus feet to the face. So all the
Twelve
cantos
cantos.
in the body of the Lord. So starting from the first two cantos. So if I read it, then 10th canto.
Oh, yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. It was nicely explained that how our mind can be cause of this condition as well as liberation. And when mind is towards material sense gratification, it leads to conditioning. That explained with that lamp example. That lamp, when the ghee is not properly applied, it gets blackened. When it's properly applied, then it burns nicely. And then we also touched upon two another shlokas of Bhagavad Gita that talked about this that one, Jnana Deepena Nivatasta, and another one was Jnana Deepena Bhaswata and Yatha Deepa Nivatasta. These two shlokas we touched upon. And then we saw the example that mind cannot be cultured only through theoretical knowledge, not just reading Vedic scriptures. We have to do practically think about Krishna, then only it can be cultured. And then we also touched upon the training of the mind and why it's important, because our senses are uncontrolled. We have all five senses which are very strong, and even one sense, when it is dragged to sense gratification, it is enough to make us eternally conditioned. And then you told that sense gratification and Krishna consciousness are two enemies. They cannot go together. And even in sadhana, it's very important. And then a few points about culturing the mind was like having gravity of thought. And then one should not think of sense gratification. One should think of only welfare of others. And one should first himself be nicely situated in Krishna consciousness to help others. And then increasing the quality of service. All these things can be used for culturing the mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. I came late, but I took one takeaway that in some or other way, like whenever we are doing service, like sometimes it will come, like to get the appreciation and all these stuffs. Like I should work on it, like still some or other way it will come. Nowadays. Nice point. That is.
श्रीमद् भागवतम की
जय।
जय।
जय।